My name is Mickey Fitzpatrick. I'm a second-year clinical PsyD student and the chair of the Chicago School Social Justice Group. And I want to thank everybody for coming to the third installment of an ongoing series of symposiums addressing psychologists' involvement in the use and training of coercive interrogation techniques at Guantanamo Bay, Abu Ghraib, and other CIA black sites. Psychologists today are facing a moral and ethical dilemma. While other professional associations, such as the American Medical Association, the American Psychiatric Association, and Physicians for Social Responsibility, have all prohibited their members from being involved in interrogations, the American Psychological Association has refused to put a stop to psychologists' involvement in interrogations and recently voted down a moratorium to cease all involvement. Instead, the APA passed a resolution that defines and condemns a number of abusive and torturous techniques as unethical and immoral. And that's really good, and that's a great start. However, the APA has not passed a resolution that these abuses have to stop. The resolution falls short, prohibiting psychologists from participating in interrogations and limiting their involvement to anything other than direct mental health services. So we're here today to create a dialogue and discuss the ethical dilemma that we as a profession are facing. But before we get started, I just want to highlight the significance of having this symposium this weekend. We cannot discuss torture in our military prisons without discussing torture and abuse that occurs in our federal, state, and county prisons, and also the police brutality that is rampant across the country. Monday, October 22nd, is the 11th Annual National Day Against Police Brutality. On the information table out there, you'll find much information about today's topic, but you'll also find information about the October 22nd Coalition that seeks to address and stop police brutality, repression, and the criminalization of a generation. As we all know, the U.S. has a history of an abusive police force that continues to this day. Currently, there's increased harassment of youth that takes place in our inner cities, but doesn't take place in places like Lincoln Park. That is abuse. There's video footage and newspaper headings of police beatings that are common occurrence in today's society. In the 90s alone, over 2,000 people were killed by police. For years, Chicago's finest tortured predominantly African-American suspects under the command and supervision of Police Commander John Burge, where individuals endured psychological and physical torture, such as electric shock to the genitals. What is happening in our military prisons is not new practice and happens in our own communities, and we must recognize and own this too. So as we discuss psychologists and coercive interrogations today, I want you all to keep that in mind. So with that said, I'm going to introduce the four panelists, and then after each of them speaks, we'll have a small break, and then we'll have a Q&A session. Our first panelist today is Dr. Frank Summers. Dr. Summers, a psychoanalyst and clinical psychologist, is a supervising and training analyst at the Chicago Institute for Psychoanalysis, the president-elect of Psychoanalysts for Social Responsibility, an associate professor of psychiatry and the behavioral sciences at Northwestern University Medical School, and a faculty member at the Chicago Center for Psychoanalysis and numerous other associations. He's the author of 3 books, as well as numerous papers in professional journals, including on the American Psychological Association and Guantanamo. He also has a private practice of psychoanalysis and psychoanalytic therapy. Our next speaker will then be Dr. Brad Olson. Dr. Olson is a community, social, and personality psychologist. He is assistant research faculty at Northwestern University in the Foley Center for the Study of Lives and the School of Education and Social Policy. His research areas include community action, public policy, addiction, and a narrative study of lives. He is the current chair of the Divisions of Social Justice, a collaboration of 12 divisions within the American Psychological Association, working on social justice issues within psychology. Our third speaker today will be Dr. John Nipsey. In addition to his private clinical practice in Chicago, Dr. Nipsey teaches interdisciplinary courses in the theology department at Loyola University, Chicago. His book, A Sacred Voice is Calling, Personal Vocation and Social Conscience, explores the psychology, spirituality, and ethics of vocational discernment and social responsibility. A member of Psychoanalysts for Social Responsibility, he is also a clinical volunteer at the Marjorie Kovler Center for the Treatment of Survivors of Torture. Then lastly is the Chicago School's own Jeremy Carpin. Jeremy is a recent graduate of the Chicago School's Master's Program in Forensic Psychology. He currently works as a partner abuse and intervention facilitator with the West Side Domestic Abuse Project, serves as the chair of the Second City Greens, an Illinois Green Party local, and is an alumni representative